Graduation caps fly high in the air with cheers and joy from thousands of graduates from various tertiary institutions. The single ceremony is seen as a symbol of passage from academia to the field of work. There exists an atmosphere of hope for many of these young people ready to work for a good salary and comfortable life.
And so as someone going to do my national service, I'm going to see that as the best opportunity, and first and foremost, a place to start to lead that change. Be working with my managers, my teammates, and everyone. And then most especially in my community, because Ashesi is very strong on citizenship. And so wherever I live, wherever I find myself, I need to do something to create a change. And I know for our year group, we are not giving ourselves more than 6 months. Within 6 months, we should start creating change in our country.
But as fate may have it, at least for more than half of them, their hope may remain a dream for the short to medium term after graduation.
I mean, going to school in Africa doesn't add anything. Hard work, struggling, a bit of illegal work, legal work. I mean, so many hustling to get you to the top. You can't just go to school and relax and say, I'll be out of school and get a job and find myself at the top.
I won't lie, it's been frustrating. You'll be frustrated, especially when you come from a home where you need things that you can't really get because the finance is not very good. It's really frustrating.
These situations are not out of the ordinary, as data from the Ghana Statistical Service has consistently established that persons with higher educational qualifications are unlikely to get a job. The Ghana Living Standard Survey 7, published by the Ghana Statistical Service, for instance, reveals that close to 20% of the country's employed population is made up of persons with no educational backgrounds against a meager 4.8% with university degrees. Those with qualifications from kindergarten to SHS level make up 68.4% of the workforce. Persons with vocational and technical training make up 2.7%, while trained teachers and polytechnic graduates form 1.9% and 2.6% respectively. On the other hand, about 7% of the unemployed population has no educational background, while those with a tertiary certificate make 8.3% of the unemployed population. But why is this the case in a country where education has been touted as a key to success? I engaged employers in both the public and private sector to understand the difficulty in providing jobs.
The truth of the matter is that, like I did say, we need financial clearance from Ghana government before we can employ people. We do make the demands, but the highest figure that I remember, if my memory serves me well, was about 15 slots that we got for permanent workers within the space of a year, if my memory serves me well. You know, so it's nothing to write home about. Work is waiting to be done. People are in the house saying they don't have jobs. How is this not an opportunity for us to employ people? You know, it baffles me.
Unlike these people who can tell you I have space, but I don't have money, I will tell you simply, what determines whether you have space or not is whether you have money. If the business is growing and I can put somebody to work and the person will bring me more money, right? Why wouldn't I employ him to do it? If there's no more money, I will not recruit. So it's very simple. Unless business is growing, don't expect the private sector to recruit.
But the problems of these young graduates seem to be compounded by the lack of vacancies for fresh graduates with no years of work experience.
There are not many jobs, let's be honest. From where I sit, a lot of the jobs that we see are mostly at the mid-level to the C-suite level. When I say C-suite, so managing director roles, chief operations officer, executive director, etc., etc. And then mid-level roles, so maybe a marketing manager, human resource manager. You get very little of roles at the frontline level or entry-level roles, which most appeal to graduates or people who have just finished national service, as the case may be.
Notwithstanding this gloomy picture, many graduates like David, not his real name, put in their all during their national service to ensure they are retained by their employers. David completed the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in 2015 and landed his service placement at the Ghana Revenue Authority through the help of a friend whose mother worked with government at the time. He was named the best national service personnel and was engaged to train the new personnel, but the change in government at the time would bring it all to an end.
My boss called me one day and he told me, would you like to stay after your national service? And I said, yeah, why not? And he told me, so during the general meeting, he told my colleagues, Prince will be staying. So the rest, you are free to go. So I was maintained and I was given a task to train the service guys who were at my department. And I don't know, change of government. I left around May.
May 2017?
Yes, May 2017. So it wasn't right after the change of government, but I don't know, but orders can come from above.
At this point, reality sets in for most of them. It's application after application, disappointment after disappointment. So far, David says he has submitted over 100 applications, both in person and online, to numerous companies, but has only been called for 2 interviews.
The 2 interviews, I had one at Tema and one at Ashaliboche. Yeah, they were all something like links, recommendations. So I just went for one interview and the salary was very, very, very small. I mean, from my place here to Tema. I mean, you came here yourself, so you know the journey. From here to Tema isn't easy. So 500 cedis from here to Tema. When I calculated my transportation, it was around 650 or 750 or so.
Wairam also shares with me the many disappointments she has faced in pursuit for a permanent job.
One university in Ghana, technical university in Ghana, where I applied. The HR told me to put in everything, like the normal application we did. I knew I was up for that job. I was ready for it to take up the job. Only for me later not to be shortlisted. And I still don't understand why. And also one that I was part of the 3 shortlisted applicants. We were only 3, and later I went to the interview and they loved my performance. But later I was not called again.
But could it be that unemployed graduates like Wairam and David have been applying for jobs the wrong way?
And for every person, there are 3 hurdles that stand your way in your quest to land your dream job. First is to know people or to get a recommendation from somebody. Indeed, the SWAL modus operandi for getting jobs has changed. If you were still floating application letters and CVs in companies, you probably were using a very failed approach already. Often you'll be told to leave with a security officer, and that's where it ends.
This approach has made employment seeking unfair. People like David and Wairam compete for the small vacancies with others who have connections to people with power in the corporate world.
So we'll be pretending if we said we didn't know that people are trying to get jobs through their priests, through their MPs, through ministers they know, through chiefs. Basically anybody you know who has influence. So I'm not going to sit on national TV and pretend that those pressures do not come. But the question is, how many of those people can you even serve? And then what happens to the many people who don't have any link to anybody, who don't know any big man? Because even the people who know the big men, they are not getting jobs.
This puts many in vulnerable situation. Wairam tells me how many people have asked for sexual favors just to recommend her for an interview.
He said I should meet him at Sugar Coffee. So one morning around 9 a.m., I packed, took a handbag and then straight to Sugar Coffee. When I got there, he said I should meet him in his house. And this is a big man who was so rich and can get me a job. When I got there, he said I should wait for him in his room. And I was wondering, there's this myth about rich people. What if he used me for some ritual or something? But the quest for job, I went there, putting all my energy, like taking all the risk. So I went to the room. When I entered a very big suit, I saw a gun on the bed. Then my inner person was like, today is today. If I don't die today, I won't die again. So he came in and he just had a morning coat kind of on. And he was totally naked beneath that. So he just took it off and was like, make me feel good. And I'm like, God. At that point, I started shaking him. I asked him if his daughter is in a condition like mine, if he'll be okay. And he sat there on the bed, still lying down, that I should just make him happy and I'll get the job. He can get me the job. If not, I should just leave. And I said, okay, I'll just leave.
With such disappointments, many get frustrated and give up the search for a job in the formal sector, leading to more graduates searching for jobs in the informal sector. That is why the Ghana Statistical Service says that 71% of the total workforce is in the informal sector. Others who do not have the means to create their own businesses will have to fall on family for support, but this comes with its own problems.
Yeah, how can an unemployed graduate ask for more food at home? Yeah, so there are some times that you have to go out and find your own food. And as a man, it's not always advisable to stay home for someone to feed you. You have to find your way out. You have to do many things. You know, the Kpakpakpa movement. Do everything to feed yourself or find your way out.
There are, however, concerns of the mismatch in the skill set of the Ghanaian job seeker and demands of industry.
There are also sometimes jobs, but you don't have the requisite talents to fill those roles. I've worked on roles for about probably more than a year, where I've had to source from abroad because the company wanted a certain kind of talent that I couldn't find. I interviewed scores of people. None of them met their competency framework. Eventually, we had to source from the UK and US.
The Ghana Statistical Service reports that 6.3% of job seekers during their waiting periods upgrade their skills. Likewise, Wayram enrolled in a master's program after a year of job search.
After school, I tried to get a job in the school, but I was asked that I can only proceed if I get further study, like master's degree. So I think it was the drive for my decision to go directly back to school right after service.
Even though it took a year after the master's program to get a job, she's excited with the gains she has made.
You know, when you've never been unemployed, when you talk about getting a job, you wouldn't understand. When you have a job just right after school, sometimes you will get there and you think it's because jobs are there. So I value my job so much. Like, I put it before anything. I'll just tell you, my job is, because I don't ever wish for anyone to have a degree and not be employed. It's really frustrating.
David has also learned how to drive and is now a boat driver. But unlike Wayram, he still hopes for a salary job one day.
I learned driving and went for a driving driver's license, and I started this job at the latter part of last year.
How has it been going so far?
Yeah, so far so good. It's been well to put something on the table, but not something for the future.
If you say not something for the future, what do you mean?
You can't build a house with both money.
Just like David, a good number of job seekers are unable to venture into businesses that will be sufficient for their needs. He captures the frustrations of the Ghanaian unemployed youth in these few words.
The future. The future is opaque. I mean, I've been driving around and I see a lot of desperate youth trying to do something for themselves. Hard work doesn't pay.
Doesn't?
No.
At all?
At all.
At all. What pays?
Smartness. They will tell you to use your brains.
But employers are hopeful that with the right government interventions, their demand for labor can match the supply for labor.
I think a proper assessment needs to be done of agencies that are still on government subvention. Look at how many of those people can be weaned off government subvention. And then at the end of every year, maybe I'm expecting X amount based on the assessment I have done, which you must pay to the national kitty. That will be your contribution. That is what you are paying by way of dividend to the shareholder, which is government of Ghana. Employ as many people as you want, pay them as well as you can, run your operations as efficiently as you can, but know that at the end of every year, you are paying us so much.
Enable the private sector to grow. Make the process of access to finance easier. Make the process of registering new companies easier. Make the processes of starting small but thinking big easier. Allow us to, and then the private sector will grow. If the private sector grows, they will employ.